Hello, and thank you so much for joining me. Today I have a cute little dress pattern to show you that is actually a pattern being offered for free by Tatyana at Tatyana Doll Designs. I'll include a link down below with her mailing list. She just asks that you sign up for that and she will send this to you. It is so cute, you guys. I had a lot of fun with this project, so without further ado, here we go. Alright, so we are going to make a cute, simple little dress, and I have some very cute fabric. It's got little stars and flowers, and I am so ready for spring, guys. This piece is presented as a rectangle on the pattern piece, but it's smaller on the pattern piece, and then you're given the measurements. These are the sleeves. There's two of them, and if you are like me and you're using fabric that has a direction, make sure you keep that in mind while you're cutting. We've got the two back pieces, the front piece, and then I have cuffs for the sleeves in a contrasting color, just because why not? 4 collar pieces, and the neck facing. So to start off, we are going to sew all 6 of these darts. Okay, so we've got our darts sewn. Pretty straightforward there. Same with the back pieces. I think I am going to basically do a bunch of prep work. I'm probably going to run the bottom edge of this through the serger just to get that serged. I'm going to run my gathering stitches on my sleeves, and I'm going to stitch the collar pieces together, and then those will be flipped inside out so the nice edge will be out. I might try to serge this. I don't know. I don't know that this is going to serge very nicely, but we'll give it a go, see how we do. And I will stitch the shoulder seams together. So I did have the collars sewn, and unfortunately I'm out of camera while I snip little triangles of fabric out of the seam allowance while being careful not to cut my stitching line, and this helps keep that fabric from bunching up ugly under the collar once everything's been turned inside out, which I'm doing now. And when you turn things inside out, it's good to run your finger along that edge and, just make sure that it's not folding in a weird way, and then iron it in place. Then I moved on to the sleeves, and the long edge is the bottom of the sleeve, so I am going to gather that to my cuffs. And I'm just gathering it to the one side of my cuff for now. And then, carefully make sure that your little gathers are fairly even. I do leave less gathers near the edges because that's going to be under the arm, and you don't really want as much poof down there anyway, so I kind of try to focus them towards the center. Once they're both done, I find the center of my center front and I mark it with a pen that disappears in heat. So if you see me drawing on fabric, don't stress. It just goes away when you iron it. And I am very carefully starting from the center and pinning outward the collar pieces. Okay, so this is either going to be hand stitched or machine basted. These guys are going to be machine sewn and then serged, that edge serged, so that this can wrap around and make a nice cuff. And yeah, I think that's Oh, I haven't done the gathering stitches on the skirt yet, but I'll probably have to do those as well. This guy, once this has been basted in place, this is gonna go over top all the way around. Okay, so now that we've got our cuff looking pretty good, and you know, I thought about it and I could have sewn this like that and then essentially had that edge. It would be uglier on the inside. So I'm going to do something that's moderately prettier on the inside instead. I just sewed it to the one side, and then we're going to wrap this around. And you have options. You could tuck this edge in, and if you really wanted it to be pretty on the inside, you can hand stitch this down like that. And that would be really, really nice. Not gonna do that. I am gonna line this up. This is gonna be a little bit thinner, which I like, and a lot easier, which I also like. So my goal, I think I'm gonna try to stitch in the ditch. So to do that, I would line this up so that when I stitch right along this edge, I'm gonna catch this. And that will effectively seal that while also keeping the front looking nice. So I go ahead and carefully pin those down because I only want to catch a tiny bit of that serged edge. I don't want a whole lot of extra material flapping around in there. And this is also going to kind of determine the width of my sleeves. Then we move on to the facing, which is going to be shorter than your back pieces. That is okay. Just make sure that it is centered is going to be the most important part. There's a lot of extra fabric in the back of this pattern, and that's because she's kind of giving you options for how you want to finish it. So I need to trim this with little snips, just going towards the stitching line without crossing over it. But I also want to finish this edge in some way. So I think after I do my snips, I'm gonna put it through the serger. And I'm doing it afterwards because I'm hoping it will retain some of its ability to lay flat that way. We'll hope for the best. So to encourage the facing to lay flat, I went ahead and understitched it beneath the collar. So I put it through the machine like this and just kept the collar from getting in the way. I stitched all the way around the neckline to hold the facing in place. And that is very nice. That's gonna make it much easier to not worry about that flopping around and getting in the way. So now we have sleeves. So putting sleeves in with gathers is to me a lot easier than trying to ease a sleeve and make it all smooth. So I just made sure that my shoulder seam was actually in the center, and it pretty much was. So I put the center of my sleeve cap on the shoulder seam and lined up the other two edges and then just gathered the excess in. And this is the same as with the bottom part of the sleeve. You want kind of the majority of the gathers to be up at the top of the shoulder, not under the arm, which would be both uncomfortable and not especially flattering. Okay, so sleeves are in, looking good. We're gonna close up the side seams. Pretty straightforward. Match up your underarm seam and stitch. all the way down. So I'm gonna try something that isn't in the pattern, just out of curiosity. It's been a trick I've been meaning to try anyway. But I'm basically gonna put this piece along the waistband to kind of make a faux belt sort of deal, just for the look of things. And to do that, I'm just gonna fold this in half and that will get stitched down. I might just do it at the same time as I stitch the waistband, or not the waistband, the skirt, because this is going to get gathered, stitched like that, so this will flop forward, this will stay up. In theory, we might have to do some tricks to keep that from flopping down as well. And yeah. Before that, I'm gonna hem the skirt real quick. I have the tendency when I'm using the serger to just do a single fold hem like that. You can also do double like that. I like the single because it feels like it lays flatter and I feel like things don't get as bulky as quickly. So that's why I do it that way. I'm gonna go ahead and hem this and then gather it up. Yeah, I might just base this down too and then gather this up to the waist, stitch it down, and we're getting close. So the waistband has been basted on and I am just finding the center of the center front to pin the middle of the skirt to, and then I will eyeball the rest of the gathers and just try to make them as even as possible while leaving about 3 centimeters of the skirt in the center back ungathered. So I just kind of smoosh the gathers over a little bit farther. And that is because we do have so much excess in the back. We're going to end up cutting some of that, and we might as well not cut hard-made gathers. They just make things more complicated anyway. So that's why those are a little less gathered, and I center all the rest of the gathers as evenly as possible around the remainder of the waistband. Now that's been sewn, I did put this on the doll and I marked the very, very center back. And I did this because I am trying something a little newer. I don't use Velcro very often because I always manage to make it lopsided. Like, it'll be not centered perfectly and I hate it. So I'm trying to center Velcro. So with my 3 little markings, I am figuring out where exactly my center back is, and then I am drawing a line with my heat erase pen exactly 1/4 of an inch away from that, and then I am extending that line down the skirt. Then I use that line and measure exactly 1/2 inch and all of the rest I am going to serge off and make that 1/2 inch the edge, and that will be the part that gets folded over. And then I do exactly the same thing on the other side with the rest of my center back markings. I really love these heat erase pens. It can be a little frustrating when all your markings disappear before you want them to, but for the most part, they are just way too useful to be able to draw and not have to worry about it. I do recommend testing your fabric first, but for this cotton, like the quilter's cotton that I normally use, it's perfect. Alright, so in this I've gone ahead and ironed down that 1/2 inch, and in ironing it all my marks disappeared. That's okay because they did what they needed to do. And now I am measuring out my Velcro, and it is kind of a long piece because it needs to go at least 2 inches down the back to give the Smart Doll booty the room to get through, basically. So I trim it to size, and then because this Velcro is really thick, I just cut it in half, and that's what I use because this stuff is double-sided. I really like this stuff. I will throw a link down because the company I buy it from is a pretty neat company. Like, they have done right by me, so I don't feel bad sending you to them. They're called Zipper That Doll, and one of the few places that has actually shipped me things that I have ordered in the last few weeks, so I really appreciate that. That being said, now that we've cut that down to size, I do go ahead and lining up that 1/2 inch Velcro over top of my 1/2 inch overlap. I pin that in place, and then I go ahead and top stitch that down, just like a, you know, a rectangle, go all the way around all the edges. I'm using my slightly beefier pins because the Velcro, even though this is the thinnest Velcro I've ever seen in my life, is still thick enough that it makes my super thin pins kind of angry. And by angry, I mean I just bend them and then I have to throw them away. So we want to avoid that. The other piece gets lined up on the inside of the fabric, and this is the piece I like the soft side facing down because, I don't know, in my head I always want the soft side facing the skin, which I think is something I learned in theater when it was actual people. I don't think the dolls mind as much, but at the same time, if you can avoid scratchy surfaces on your doll, that's probably for the best because you don't want to scratch them either. Once the Velcro's been sewn, it is time to try it on your doll and make sure that you can get it on and off while that center back is finished. So that's why I put that pin there. I was able to get it off easily, so I left the pin, and I'm gonna finish the center back by just stitching along the very bottom of that Velcro, down the back seam, and then along the hem. And that's just to kind of hold everything in place. It's a top stitch, and it is just the easiest way to do that, I think. And there you have it. It is done. This dress is so cute. I love it so much. And now that I look at it, especially on my Entropy doll, Shannon, I think, oh my goodness, this would be the perfect Alice in Wonderland dress. So I think I might need to make a blue version next. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. All you gotta do is sign up for a mailing list, and the other good thing about that mailing list, you actually get discounts and stuff too for Tatyana's other patterns. So not only do you get a free pattern, but you get discounts in the future. And with that being said, I think we're done. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like and subscribe to see more videos like this. And yeah, have a good one. Bye bye.